Hi, family. Welcome back to another week of wife material. Can you believe we are going on to week 3 of this study group? It seems like we just started, but we're already in week 3. So I'm looking at it. I think what we have maybe like one and a half, maybe what 1.5, almost 2 weeks left in this study group. I don't know about you, but this has been such a just an eye-opening study. And I mentioned it last Saturday that how even reading Proverbs 31 before, it really hits different this time when you take each individual verse and you break it down and you specifically meditate on that one verse. God reveals so much to you as you're focusing on that one verse. It's like different things come to mind that you never would have thought of before. And even to applying it to everyday life. I don't know about you, but for me, there are things that I see. I'm like, hold on, okay, I really didn't have the understanding of that before, but now I get it. It makes sense. And even to just these past 2 weeks, it has placed me in a different mindset when it comes to being a virtuous wife. And I don't know if you experience the same thing. Just add in the comments. That's the same way I feel. It just changes your perspective on what it means to be a virtuous wife, a mother, and someone who also goes into the marketplace and does, stands on business, does what they're supposed to do, and they impact, and not negatively impact, but they produce when they're in the marketplace. So this past week has been interesting. It's been more of a switch. You will notice that the scriptures that we read this week, it has been more like a shift into what the virtuous wife, the Proverbs 31 woman, actually does. And it kind of shed some light on her daily activities. And that's how I looked at it when I started reading. It's like, okay, so this is what she does. This is how she does this thing. It kind of gives us like a guideline and instructions for how to do things. And it showed me too that even with this virtuous wife, sometimes as women, as wives, as moms, we feel like, oh my goodness, I'm doing everything. And you may be married. For single moms, I'm single, so you do have to do it all. And but even if you're married, sometimes it feels like as the wife and mother, a lot falls on you because let's face it, our kids run to us for everything. It's like mom is the first one they come to. When they need something, when they're trying to figure something out. It's mom, mom, mom. So it feels like we always have to be on. We always have to be ready. And as I read Proverbs, this verses for this week, it just showed me, like even in my life, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so much. But it showed me how she was able to do so much as well. And how God has given us as women, He's given us the grace to be wives, to be mothers, to go out into the workplace and stand on business, to do what it is we have to do. So I don't know about you, but this week's devotions has really been eye-opening. And it's kind of been like a breath of fresh air to know that, you know what? If the Proverbs 31 woman did all of this, so can I. And God has given me the grace, the strength to do this. So I want to hop in. We're not going to stay on long, but I want to hop in just to a few of the devotions, and I want to focus on one that we discussed, well, one that we read over this week. So day 8, well, we start day 7 is what we started with last Saturday, and then I want to skip into day 8. So day 8, I'm going to read just some of the things that this Proverbs 31 woman did, and then we'll kind of hone into it. So First day, she finds wool and flax and busily spins it. So what is she doing? She's finding materials and she's making stuff. She's so the first thing that came to mind to me was an interior designer, or maybe someone who makes clothes, someone who is into fashion. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So you think about it, she's taking something and she's taking just raw materials, nothing, and making it into something. And don't you find that as wives and as mothers, that's what we do? It's like, even for the example, say you're too tired to go to the grocery store one day. You gotten off of work and you're just exhausted and you don't feel like going to the grocery store, but you know you have to make a meal for your family. But you're like, okay, I have something. It's something in there I can pull together and make a meal. What do? We go home, we look and see what it is that we have in the refrigerator, in the cupboard, in the pantry. And what do? We pull what we have together and we make a meal for our family. So reading this, how she finds wool and flax and busily spins it, she takes nothing or scraps or little and turns it into something. And that's exactly what we do. We take whatever we have and we turn it into something for our family. So when I read that scripture, that just stood out tremendously. Then day 9, she is like a merchant ship bringing her food from afar. So, when you think about merchant ships, they transport food, they transport goods from afar. So she's doing what she has to do to make sure her family gets what they need. It doesn't matter the distance, it doesn't matter the time. She does what she has to do for her family. Then day 10, before dawn. This one really got me. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household, and then she plans the day's work for her servant girls. So when I saw that, before dawn, she gets up to prepare breakfast. I'm gonna tell you now, I make breakfast for my family, for my kids. But when I saw it was like it just emphasized before dawn. So before everyone has gotten up, the household everybody's quiet. And she's getting up, making sure that her family is straight, making sure that her family has nourishment before they start their day. Her first priority is her family. That just, it stood out to me. Because imagine you're waking up at dawn. It's barely light outside, if there's anything. And the first thing on your mind, of course, God, you're going to acknowledge God, you talk to him. But after that, your family comes next. So God, then family. She prioritizes before anything else her family's needs. And when I begin to think about how this applies to today, we know that in the work world, it can be so demanding. Our, employers can ask so much of us, clients can ask so much of us. Just your job in general, whatever you're doing, can be demanding and require you to do so much. And sometimes it may require you to stay up late, to wake up early in the morning and, finish work, meet deadlines. Now, I'm not saying that, not to get your work done, or you shouldn't do what you have to do to make deadlines. But what I'm saying is consistently, we have to evaluate and analyze where we are. If we're consistently prioritizing work first, if we're consistently prioritizing other things in front of our family, when you read the scripture, she gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast. Family is first before anything else. It says she prepares breakfast for her household and then she plans the day's work for her servant girls. So family first, then everything else comes along. Whatever she has to do for the day, whatever meeting she has to attend, whatever conference call she has to take, whatever she has to do comes after her family is taken care of. So when I saw this, it was just eye-opening for me that, it just emphasized how important your family comes first. And like I said, I know in our jobs, our careers, you want to be that knockout employee, or you want to have, you own your own business. You want to make a name for yourself. You want to get your brand, but it's important not to sacrifice your family. Family first. So I thought that was day 10, really, that was an interesting verse and just very enlightening. So when we move to day 11, she inspects a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So when I first thought of that, I thought about real estate. She inspects a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So this virtuous woman, this Proverbs 31 woman, and this is how bad she is. Yeah, she's preparing breakfast for her family in the morning and making sure they're good. But then she flips it and she goes out and she's like, okay, I see that piece of land for sale. I see what I can do with that. She likes it, she buys it, and then she starts doing stuff with it in order to develop and build it to make money. So when we think about the Proverbs 31 woman, she's not just about taking care of her household. That's her priority. But again, she also stands on business. So when I saw that, I'm like, she's bad. You holding your household down. Your husband is calling you blessed. Your children is calling you blessed. And then you're able to go out into the marketplace and you're able to be that boss chick. You're able to go out there and say, you know what? I see that piece of land right there. And somebody says, oh, okay. Well, you call the agent. That's $1 million property. Oh, okay. I want it. I'll take it. I have some ideas. I want to develop it. I want to build a mall. I want to do this. That's what the virtuous wife, the Proverbs 31 woman is. And I know a lot of times people will think, when we talk about Proverbs 31 woman, the virtuous wife, I don't know about you, but before, my thoughts were that, it's a woman who really does not tap into her full ability. I guess that's the best way to put it. When it comes to her own personal achievements or desires. I always imagine the Proverbs 31 woman is one who just sacrificed everything for her family and she never did anything for herself. But as I read, as I do this study, it shows me that she was more than just that. When you look at even to this verse about how she sees a piece of land, she likes it, she buys it with her earnings. And get that, it says with her earnings she plants a vineyard. So that means she has cash flow. She has continuous wealth and money that is coming into the fact, well, if she sees a piece of land, she can buy it. She's not going out there buying handbags and shoes and clothes, or and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because I love fashion. I'm a girly girl. But her focus is, how can I build wealth? What can I do to make sure that I am building generational wealth for my family? So she's just not focused on the materialistic things. It's more than that. Not even focused on cars or homes, or she's like, look, let me get the land. Let me get that commercial property so I can do some things with it. So I can leave this behind for my children. So day 11 was that was another one. Day 10 and day 11 were very, very, very impactful. And just, it just changed my perspective. And made me really want to, not saying that I don't want to be a virtuous wife, but it increased my understanding, and it put me on that level of, okay, we got to do this. Ladies, we have to do this. And let's skip to day 12. Day 12 was another eye opener. And it says she is energetic and strong, a hard worker. So I don't know about you, but the first thing I thought, she is energetic and strong, a hard worker. The first thing that came to my mind was the physical health. And because you think about it, energetic, strong, hard worker, it takes physical ability. when you talk about energetic, you're moving here, you're doing this, you're going here, you're doing this. You may be getting on a plane, flying here. You're always constantly moving. And if you're in a place where you're constantly moving, you have to be physically fit in order to do what you are called to do. And I looked up the definition. Y'all know I love looking up definitions to see, what the words means. But energetic means a high level of energy. So that means she has a high level of energy. If you're not taking care of your physical body, how can you have a high level of energy? I want you to think about that. And then I looked up the word strong, the ability to perform physically demanding tasks. So she's performing physically demanding tasks, but she's doing it with so much energy, so much zeal, probably to the point of they're like, how in the world is she doing that? Again, God's grace, but she's also taking care of her physical body. And I want to pause here when it talks about our physical body. And as wives and mothers, we can put everyone first and then we put ourselves last. We're making sure that everyone else in the household is straight. And then when we get to a point everyone is straight, by the time we go to do stuff for ourselves, it's kind of like, okay, I'm tired. I'm taking a shower and I'm going to bed. It's like we don't put enough time into ourselves. And as that Proverbs 31 woman, because you have so many hats, it is important that you take care of yourself. Again, we have God's grace, but he also gives us the wisdom to understand that you have to be in good physical health. You have to be. Think about that saying, if mama's not good, nobody's good. And that is so true. If we as the wives and the mothers, the ones who basically set the tone for the home, if we're not good, it throws everyone off. It's just, that's a fact. So we have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. We're eating healthy. What are you eating? What are you putting inside your body to give it life, to give it that energy it needs to function? Are you working out? Are you exercising? What are you doing? Are you taking at least 30 minutes a day and you're walking? I'm not saying you have to do strenuous exercises and running and do it. At least, if nothing, take 30 minutes a day. First time in the morning, after you prepare that breakfast, if you're waking up before dawn, you're spending time with God, or you're waking up before dawn, you're saying, God, I thank you for this day. Then you're up on your feet and you're preparing breakfast. Once you prepare that breakfast, give yourself time. Call it me time. Don't look at it as, oh my gosh, I got to work out. Look at it as self-care time. Take 30 minutes after you're preparing that breakfast for your family. Take 30 minutes and walk around your neighborhood. Do something. Just get out of the house. Nobody around, no kids walking with you, no husband walking with you. It's time for that. But this is your me time, because you need to have that time for you and God. And you need to allow God to build you back up and strengthen you. And I created a playlist. If you have not been using that playlist, please make sure to use the Wife Material playlist. Once this live post, I will go back in the description field and place the link to that particular playlist again. But women, you can't fill from an empty cup. You can't do it. If you're empty, how are you going to pour into your family? How are you going to give your husband what he needs? How are you going to give your children what they need? How are you going to be impactful in the marketplace? You can't if you're empty. So part of being filled up is the physical aspect of your health. And again, I know we can get so bogged down with everybody else's needs, but you have to get to a point. The last 2 years, I've been at a place where, my kids they're not older, but they're teens. So I've gotten to a point, I'm like, you're independent now. You have more independence than you did when you were younger. So this is mama's time. Mama's taking care of herself. And when I say that, I'm working out. I'm being mindful of what I eat. If I need to go and have a spa day, I'm going to go and have a spa day. If I want to go get my nails done, whatever it is. If I just want to go to the store or to the mall and just not buying anything, but if I just want to go and just look to have peace of mind, I'm going to do it. And it's not being selfish. Sometimes we have to say no. And I know it's the hardest thing to do, especially when it comes to your kids. They want to do something, they want to hang out with friends, and you're like, oh, man, I got to do this. I didn't plan on doing it. Now, I'm not saying no all the time, but sometimes you just have to say no, and you have to understand that you need time to wind down, to relax, and to allow God to build you back up and strengthen you up. So that verse on day 12, energetic and strong, we have to take care of our physical bodies. We have to. And no, saying no is okay. Learn that. Saying no is okay. And maybe if you're not comfortable with saying no, I know sometimes it is hard. Just say, you know what? Let's plan it another day. Today is not a good day for that, but let's plan it another day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of you. Prioritize you, because again, if mama's not good, nobody's good in the house. So, and then just really quickly on that note, I want you to think about it when we talk about our physical health. When it comes to doing what God has called you to do, those things that God has given you and placed you here on this earth to do, I want you to think about this. If you're not in good health, how can you do what He's called you to do? Think about that. If He's called you to be a missionary, think about this. If you're a missionary, that means you're hopping on a plane, you're flying here, you're flying there, you're moving, you're constantly going. If you're in a place where your health is not good, and it's hard for you to move around, or there's some ailments or some challenges, how can you effectively do what God has called you to do if your health is not right? So it's important to prioritize your physical health. Make sure you're taking care of you, because everybody else that you're accountable for and that you're responsible for will be impacted if you're not. Think about that. So let's see. We're 22 minutes in. I'm going to jump off. I'm going to do one more thing. Talk about one more thing. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, back to that physical health thing. When I was reading this verse, God brought back to my memory the story of Naomi and Ruth, and how Ruth was in the field gleaning. We're talking about physical strength here. So when Ruth met Boaz, and this is specifically for you singles, single women, you're waiting for God to connect you to your husband. Ruth was in the field. She was in a wheat field. Can you imagine working in a wheat field? You're pulling and you're down on your knees and you're bending and you're standing and it's probably hot outside. She had to have been in some good physical condition in order to be in that field. So think about that too when you think about your physical condition, and when it comes to being connected to your spouse. In this time, make sure you're taking care of you before you get married. Don't wait until. It should continue when you're married. But if you're not married, if you're in the place where you're waiting for God to connect you to your spouse, take care of your physical health now. Make sure you're straight. Pull it together, get it straight. Start incorporating those habits so that when you do get married, it'll be a part of your regular routine. Your self-care, your physical health will be important to you. And it won't be like, well, I get married and then I kind of get a little lazy, and you Netflix and chilling with your husband and y'all eating out and doing. I'm not saying that's not good, but in addition to that, you still have to make sure you're taking care of your physical health, because you want to feel good. You want to look good. You want to be at a point where, if you're a fashion person, I love fashion. Like I said, You want to be able to put on clothes and put on, cute little outfits and cute little shoes. And you want to feel good about yourself. It's not about anybody else. It's about feeling good about you. So when your physical health is intact, it makes you feel so much better about yourself. So that's all I'm going to say about the physical. But make sure self-care, take care of yourselves, because as wives and mothers, we have a lot of responsibilities. So we have to make sure we're on point. And the last that we read, let's see, the last verse, actually not last. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. That kind of ties into her work ethic, what she does, how she does things. She may be up late at night. She may be doing things. She may, she understands that, there are things that she has to get done, deadlines that she has to meet, whether it's for meeting certain requirements within her home, whether it's meeting certain requirements outside of the home in her business, or whether it's for her employer. She understands that. So it may be times where, you're up late at night doing stuff because you have to get something done. So this is what it's saying. It's like what do they call it? Burns the midnight oil. That's what she's doing. There are times when she does that and she understands that. But I guarantee you, she makes sure her family is straight before she does that. Family first, and then she's burning the midnight oil. So she may have to sacrifice, but she knows that her family's good. Then our last verse for this week was day 14. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. And when I thought about that, it took me back to the wool and flax, about how she works with her hands, how she takes fabrics, just takes nothing. It may look like nothing, but she turns it into something. And I start to think about, not only maybe she makes clothing for her family. Maybe she's making comforters. Maybe she's making bedspreads. Maybe she's making things just to fulfill the needs of her household. But in addition to that, I also thought about being in the marketplace. If she's spinning thread with her finger, spinning thread and twisting with spinning thread and twisting fiber with her fingers, maybe she makes clothing. Maybe she's a designer. We got to use these verses and apply it to today. Maybe she's maybe she's one whose clothing is in a mall. Maybe she's one whose clothing, she has her own boutique where she hand makes her own clothing. Maybe this is what she does. It's not just that she makes stuff for her family. Remember, I told you sometimes we can have those ideals of how the virtuous wife or the Proverbs 31 woman may, be at a point where she sacrifices what she wants to do to make sure, kids straight, husband straight. But no, it can also mean that, yeah, her household is straight, but she's also doing the thing outside of her home. So this week has been insightful. I don't want to hold us too long, but these verses for this week's devotion have been very insightful and very impactful. And it left me, I don't know about you, but it left me with the thought of, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. Being a wife whose husband will call her blessed, being a mother whose children will call her blessed. It's like, and also doing what you need to do in the marketplace. Whatever ideas God gives you, whatever visions, whatever dreams he gives you to do, we can do those and be wives and mothers at the same time. It's not one or the other. Now, in some instances, God may say, hey, I want you to stay home with your kids. I want your focus to be on your family. And that's fine, because that's God's plan for you. That's his instruction for you. But if he's also giving you instructions to do stuff outside of the home, if he's giving you these ideas, if he's giving you these business plans, He's giving it to you because he's giving you the grace to be wife and mom, and to be a woman who is impactful in the marketplace, who can go out there and strongly impact and brand herself. People will see you and say, hey, she has a husband, she has kids, they're all good, they're all happy. But then she's out here doing, she's doing XYZ. She's developing properties. She has her own business. She's doing this, she's doing that. So God has given you the grace to do everything you need when it comes to being a virtuous wife, a mother, and somebody who stands on business in the marketplace. So I'm excited to jump into week 3. Week 3, we'll start with, she extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms. Hold on. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. So that will be our devotion for today. And we will meet back next week. And I'm trying to kind of flip through. So we have about 15 more days. So 2 more weeks. I can't believe we're already halfway through. So continue going, doing your devotions, taking the time to really sit down and hear what the Holy Spirit is telling you as you're meditating on this verse, and evaluating your life and how these verses apply to your life. Like I said, some of them I read, they were like eye openers for me. And it's like, okay, I didn't think about it like that. So thank you for joining today's quick study group recap of what we talked about. Well, not talked about, but what we read this week. And we will be back on next Saturday, same time, same place. Do not forget the playlist, the wife material playlist. And again, once this post, I am going to put it in the description field or the comments field, because we need to make sure we're spending time with God. Again, we can't fill from an empty cup. And the only way we'll be able to be filled is when we're taking that time with God and allowing him to talk to us, give us instructions on what we need to do. Do we need to go this way? Do we need to go that way? Do we need to stay still with this? So family, I love you all. And until next week, be blessed.